af reið með björgum fram. Stillir mann, hitt hann fyrir sér alvaran. Var rauður loginn fram, líðan lagði fyrir undan björgunum, líðan lagði fyrir undan björgunum fram. Þar kom út ein álfamær, stillir mann, sú var ekki Kristi kær.
Hi guys, what's going on, and welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade. So, Huskarls time. Yeah, we're a little bit late on this one, but better late than never. So, Huskarls, how have we been getting on with them? Or whatever their elite name is, Vargir's Fangs. Rather sinister. I've been kind of getting on a little bit mixed with this unit. I think in many ways they do have some nice features, but I do find them relatively hard to get them to sort of reliably come off. So kind of why is that? How does the unit work? And I guess let's kind of break it down. So I guess we need to start on their unit abilities because they've got quite a lot and they have some fairly unique mechanics. The primary one of which is their Scald Song. Before that, I guess we should mention the Boar Snout, which is sort of essentially a glorified cover commander. It's okay. Nothing special. Just consider it to be a cover commander, I think. Scald Song. So essentially the unit has 3 tiers of charge up. And you can only charge up by using Scald Song. So when you activate it, the unit takes, 2 or 3 seconds to build to the first tier, 2 or 3 seconds to get to the second tier, and 2 or 3 seconds to get to the third tier. Once they get to the third tier, they unlock, I think it's Huskarls Charge, I think it's this way it goes. So you'll unlock Huskarls Charge, and they do a devastating charge forwards, and then as that build-up charges down to the second tier, you can then use Sea Surge, and then the Gathering Storm, right? So it unlocks these different tiers. Without the charge up, without getting to the third tier, the unit isn't all that great. They're a pretty mediocre tier 4 melee unit, as standard. When you add the charge up in, they actually do become reasonably decent. They're not the greatest unit to ever walk the worlds of Conqueror's Blade, but they actually become good. They move quite quickly, they have really quite high attack aggression, which means they can do quite a lot of damage in quite a sort of short period of time, which is nice. But it does mean you have to do this sort of, 6 to 9 second build up before you can actually charge in. And that does add quite a lot of time. So I guess you've got to kind of weigh that up. And that's one of the real sort of flexibility limitations I find with this unit. Because a lot of the time, 69 seconds is quite a long time in Conqueror's Blade battle terms. Quite a lot can change. And the other really annoying thing about it is the fact that once you charge up to full, obviously if you then move the unit, or once you've hit full, it then starts to decay fairly rapidly. But you can't just top it back up again. You have to wait until it decays all the way back down through all 3 tiers to 0, and then you get a 3-second cooldown before you can even activate Scald Song again to start recharging. And that's probably the worst bit about it for me. If you could get it to full charge, and then it just decayed as it does, but you can, you decay down to half of level 2, and then you could reactivate it, that would give you so much more flexibility, but you can't, and that is one of the more limiting factors of it, because you really need that charge to really get that sort of, get the unit to sort of kick off really kind of any decently. And that's just an Ironside's Doctrine on the end. We'll get on to Doctrines in a minute. In terms of veterancy line, I ended up going down the top line just mostly because it was the extra damage. Things like the cooldown on the Boar Snout are pretty irrelevant. They also all have these sort of deviations of the same ending, apart from the slight healing one along the bottom, which I don't think really adds a great deal in terms of a sort of top of the veterancy line ability, but a little bit of extra damage, I kind of felt it was probably going to be the way to go. In terms of Doctrines, we have got 2 Sword Doctrines on. The Epic Sword Doctrine 1 for the blunt and slashing damage, and obviously a bit of extra iron sides, just to make them a little bit more tanky. Obviously, throw that on as soon as you get into the battle. We have got the Huskarl Raiders Doctrine. This is the one from the seasonal challenges. It's actually a really nice one, well worth having. The one that you actually get from the missions, yeah, is not really worth having in my opinion. A 1 second cooldown on Boar Snout, which I don't think is even a particularly amazing ability anyway, doesn't seem worthwhile. Other than that, Siege Fighter Doctrine, obviously just to give them the extra bit of damage, and of course a Breakthrough Doctrine for extra damage versus units. These two, I think there's been extensive testing done, but on average they seem to add sort of around 15% extra damage when you've got both on, which is obviously well worth having. Anyway, let's hop into some battles and see kind of a few of the struggles we've been having with this unit. So we kick things off on Conqueror Castle, and this is kind of one of those battles where I find that you can make the Surge work, make the Warcry work, and then they actually seem quite powerful. So we get to the top above A, the team's building up, I'm building up my charge, the team starts to go in, I'm just waiting to hit that 3. I let it build up a little bit beyond the 3 because they need to reach the enemies before it times out, because as soon as you start moving, you see how quickly it ticks down. Go in, straight on with the charge, and look, real good burst damage, 12 kills, first impact. They keep getting in, they're getting stuck into some of the enemy units, including some enemy Huskarls. Enemy Halberdiers come down the stage. As soon as it ticks off that third tier ability, we activate the next one, and then we activate the tier 1 ability when we get there as well. Push down the 40 Braccios, up to 40 kills. You know, some of the units starting to get diminished a little bit now, but very aggressively and rapidly helped push through the A point. I think, in that sort of situation, they worked pretty well. Right? I think they did a decent job there, as good a job as really any unit would have done. 40 kills, very rapid damage as well, which is nice, and pretty hard for the enemy to counter. So I think in that sort of situation, they work really, really well. Much harder than when you obviously start to push down and you're just back to normal bit of melee. Obviously, you can't really charge them up every time you've got one slight little fight, even if it is a little bit of cavalry. Particularly when we've got some 40 Braccios here anyway. But that's really the end of the unit for this battle, right? There's not that many left. We're going to lose a few more to archers shortly, and by the time we get to the supply point, there's only sort of a quarter of a unit left or something like that. And it's just not really worth me keeping them out. So they're really only getting that sort of one push with them. Okay, but they worked well in that clip. What about some of the problems we have? Okay, so on Riverlands, the B point's being capped. Now, absolutely I should have noticed this earlier. Get here, the team's only got ranged, I'm the only melee unit here. But there's grey hairs, there's quite a lot of stuff there. There's no way these Huskarls are going to do anything unless they get their Warcry charged up first. It's just pointless, they'll just get completely killed. So I have to run around, and I know I'm going to get myself killed as a hero. I just get the third charge off and I get the charge off, but now I can't control the unit. Any other unit, you know, if I'd got Paladins or something like that, I would have just got lined up and charged straight in. Would that not be more useful? You know, this is one of the real limitations I find of the unit, is you are sacrificing flexibility for that sort of Warcry charge, but you really need that Warcry charge for the unit to actually work in any real meaningful way. So, slightly later on, and I'm going to try a different tactic with them. I'm going to try and keep them alive a little bit longer, because, you know, I'm just using them for these sort of point surges and then getting myself killed, and I'm not sure that's necessarily all that helpful. So I'm going to try and, well, pick more one-to-one fights, see if I can keep them alive a little bit longer. Although at this point, you know, I thought there might be a fight breaking out on the top here we could win, but by the time the unit's actually charged up, the fight's actually over, and so we've already missed it. And this is one of the real frustrations. Thankfully, the enemy do push down the other side, so it does provide me with at least a little bit of an opportunity to get the unit in, end up using them on these cavalry here, and actually it works kind of fairly well. They get around behind them, the Armigers go down really fairly quickly. That Huskarl charge is genuinely very nice. Get stuck into some prefetch guards, start to push through them a fair bit, and we get a few enemy units come down, but I pull back and lap round, rather than trying to push up the stairs into the archers, into all the stuff that's sort of blocking up there, where I probably am going to struggle to get through. Pull them back, keep them alive, actually didn't lose any of the unit there, so, you know, we can be back to fight for another day. Just got the unit healed up on the supply point. Got some halberds starting to push in front of us. Got the unit charging up. Again, time is a problem. Get these guys pushing in. Decide to leave them on the charge up for now, although it's very tempting to pull them in, you know, because you want the unit in the fight. But obviously once you cancel that charge up, that's it. End up using on these palace guards, which obviously must have lost their hero. They end up retreating, which we obviously cut down fine. They're really not a problem. And we can start to push back in down this way. Most of the enemy halberdiers got dealt with. I was going to push them onto the point, didn't think it was worth it, so I started just to run around to deal with some of the stuff on the ground. They do move very quickly, these guys. I mean, the speed that they sort of lap around is kind of quite intense, so they are quite nice for movement speed. But yeah, just real lack of flexibility in having to get this charge up every time. Would love to have gone and engaged those palace guards earlier. Would have liked to engage the halberdiers earlier, so I'm sort of missing fights because I'm sort of stuck charging the unit up. I'm kind of missing the opportunities. I don't know if it perhaps comes down to the style and the way I play, which perhaps it isn't very well suited to this. And I think this is something I've said on probably a lot of units that have fairly sort of niche unit mechanics. I kind of struggle to make them work because I really like a fast, flexible unit with a reasonable degree of base damage. And that for me is kind of what works really well. I think that's why at the time I got on so well with Paladins back in like Season 5, because they had all that flexibility options. They could do so many things. They're such an all-rounder. That's why I kind of enjoyed them so much. So in here, okay, so I've seen my opportunity. Going to start to build up, start to build the unit up. I kind of didn't want these Wolves of Ragnarok to go in, but there's too much stuff now, right? We're being trebbed at the top. There is loads of stuff up there. It would be nice to go in, but it's certain death. So I pull the unit out. But there we go. Now I've missed my charging opportunity, and I can't just start recharging again. Now we're down to tier 1 of the build-up. Still got to wait for that to decay all the way back down to 0, then for the cooldown to end, before I can even make use of the unit again. And that's just kind of really frustrating. I don't know why it doesn't toggle on and off, and to enable you to sort of build and hold that charge for a bit longer, or maneuver and then restart to build, rather than having to go this sort of 0 to full to 0 every time, which is what really kills the flexibility for me. It'd be nice to get shot by a few war rockets. Thank you very much. Not quite sure why there's war rockets in just a random siege battle. But anyway, get the unit charged up. Come round, have just enough charge left to get my Huskarl charge off into this unit of grey hairs. We do take quite a bit of damage, taking them on from the front, but we do manage to overwhelm them. Again, in another time it would have been nice to flank, but I didn't have time because my 3-tier charge was going to come off cooldown and then I'd have been stuck. We get stuck in, we do deal with some of the Berserkers, but the Berserkers are just a little bit too strong here and the unit gets overwhelmed. And this is just kind of summing up my experience with them, really. Yeah, cavalry. Not really having any particularly great games, really kind of struggling quite a lot to sort of get it to work, as we then get taken down by a nice dual blades. God damn it. But anyway, yeah, that's been my experience with the unit, really. Kind of been struggling with them a little bit. They certainly have their moments. There's something there with them. I just can't really get them to work very well for my playstyle. Nice when they pop off, but the lack of flexibility is really what, for me, kills them. But I think I can imagine other people are almost getting on with them quite well, and it's probably as much a me problem as it is a problem with the unit. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Obviously, subscribe to the channel for some more slightly erratically scheduled Conqueror's Blade content. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you all on the next one.